Oh my goodness, what am I doing over here? It's James Tylee, and I'm on West Loves East Radio's network. Hey Beth, are you around?
Hey, what are you doing here?
I just stumbled in. I don't
Oh
know what
my gosh.
what channel am I even on?
We are on Music You Can See radio today. Come
Mu-
on in. Is
music you could
Johnny
see.
Fry with you?
I got Johnny with me.
Yeah, hi Beth. I'm here. Good to be back on the airwaves with you. Couple of mad.
I'm so glad you guys decided to stop by and hang out with me. My listeners have sent me some really, really amazing questions. And I read the Digital Nomads article and I have questions. If you guys have some time, let's grab a cup of coffee and sit down and chat about it.
Yeah, I guess our
Sounds good
ears
to me.
were ringing, right? Johnny and I were discussing our normal podcast over at Team Blockchain, which is of course on Cyber FM, where I believe a whole bunch of your listeners always hang out on. Right? They earn their crypto while listening to West Loves
Bet.
East. Personally, I'm a euphoric trip radio guy, but music you can see. I'm gonna have to go there and see if Johnny comes across as well as I do on radio. But music you can see. Yeah, they sent you a bunch of questions today. You want to harass us? Let's go.
This one is from, I actually know who this is from because it's from a gal I work with. And she says, isn't cryptocurrency what criminals use on the internet to commit crimes? I think this is a good one because I think a lot of people think this.
I have never
Well,
broken a
okay.
law. Johnny, you take that one
um,
with the legalities.
Okay, so let me take that one then. Well, the trouble is that where there's money, then there's people trying to take it from your back pocket. And yes, internet crime, has been and continues to be committed on a sort of fairly regular basis. People have been asking to pay ransoms in the form of crypto, thinking that they can then keep it in their digital wallet and it's outside the banking system. The trouble is that cryptocurrencies or digital assets, because this isn't just about cryptocurrencies, this is about digital assets. So we're beginning to see central bank digital currencies being unveiled and sponsored effectively by banks, by the governments of various different jurisdictions. We're also seeing things called NFTs issued by companies like Starbucks. And people can actually try and hold you to ransom. So I want your NFT or I want your cryptos as a form of ransom. But you've got to remember these digital assets leave a digital footprint. It's a bit like a fingerprint. And authorities can then track and trace where those assets are moved down. And a good example of that, I think, is what we saw last year in America, where the Eastern Seaboard, where you are, James, you've got a big pipeline which supplies a lot of the gas, or as we'd call it in the UK, petrol, to the Eastern Seaboard, and they shut it down. And they said, unless you pay us money in the form of Bitcoin, we're not going to turn it back on. So they paid the ransom, but the FBI managed to get back 85% of the Bitcoins that were paid. Now, if you had a suitcase
awesome.
of cash, but if you had a suitcase of cash, you couldn't track that down. But with a digital asset, you can track it down. So criminals are beginning to realize that maybe using digital assets or cryptocurrencies as a form of ransomware maybe is not quite so smart because it does leave that digital footprint.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
This is why I own an EV.
Yeah, I don't.
Yes.
I drive a Subaru WRX. Zoom zoom.
That's my
Her
wife's
name
car,
is
yeah.
Zippy. Yeah, I know. Your wife has the STI. Yeah.
Definitely a faster
Yeah, me
car
and
to
your
get
wife
away
have
with
good
committing
taste.
if you committed internet crime, you can get away with that car, that's for sure.
So Badger, have you
I
got any
love
other
mine.
questions for us before we get into your asking?
You know what? Let's look at this one. If I invest in cryptocurrency, how do I get my money back so I can use it to pay my bills?
That's
James,
a
you
pretty
wanna have a
easy
go at
one.
that?
What do you think, Johnny? You want me to take that one?
Yeah, you go for it.
I personally am a big fan of what we use the term cash and currency, right? Like the almighty dollar. Yeah, it's basically a fiat currency. Not the car, but fiat for paper and coins. And you use what's called a fiat on ramp or an off ramp onto that super information highway. We're going old school now, but everybody's heard of Coinbase. I think for the most part, if you watch the Super Bowl, everybody's familiar with crypto.com, especially those people out in Los Angeles, right? We got the Crypto.com. Used to be the Staples Center, I think. Go find a
Yeah.
good rock concert. Maybe Kevin Shin will perform there. I don't know. But these are massive companies now today, and they make their one job is to allow you to convert, the money in your bank, whether it be an ACH or Visa debit card. They have limits and limitations as to how much you can buy. But you're basically no different than like Ameritrade or E-Trade. You're going to buy stock using your bank account, and now you buy crypto using your bank account via these companies, in the United States anyway, because that's my experience. You go on Coinbase and you go, I'm going to buy, if you're anything like me, you're only going to buy like zero point 0.01 Bitcoin, right? Because what is Bitcoin right now? Like 19 grand? So I'm going to go $190 and just buy a little bit of Bitcoin. And then next week, it might go up a little bit, it might go down a little bit, and I'm going to buy another $190. And it's called dollar cost averaging, which is probably a whole other conversation to have. But these companies allow you to go ahead and buy just fractions and drips and drabs of crypto to get you in there, at least to get you started. And as far as getting the
like
money
penny
out,
stock.
So,
Oh,
Beth, I
nice.
think the bottom line is you can actually link your digital assets to a Visa or MasterCard or PayPal or Square. And so therefore you can go and buy a cup of coffee and it gets settled, it gets paid for with your crypto. So there's 40 odd million places around the world that accept Visa and MasterCard. And you can spend crypto in any one of those places now. So it's super easy to actually spend your money.
So
I did recently meet up with
um,
Jonny Fry in Washington, D.C., and in as much as I used my EV to only spend like $30, I did actually use my Coinbase Visa debit card, at the charging unit. So I pre-planned how much money I needed. I pulled a little bit out of the crypto market, and I took my road trip to D.C.
But Beth, it's quite interesting. James touched on that thing called dollar cost averaging. And had you just put away just $10, a week into gold, for example, over the last 3 years, value of your gold holdings now would be worth $1,597. Bearing in mind that you'd have saved $1,570. So you're kind of break even. Alternatively, you could have put your $1,570, i.e., $10 a week, you could have put it into the Dow Jones stock market. And that's grown to be worth $1,789. Alternatively, you could have put it in Bitcoin, and your $1,570 is now worth $3,805, i.e., it's grown by 142%. So
Yeah, wow.
So you haven't got to go back 10 years like some people say, just by putting money away. Because cryptocurrencies, let's make no mistake about it, they are volatile. And if you've got a volatile asset, you want to do just what James is saying, and that is drip feed a little bit of money, on a regular basis, and it smooths out the ups and downs. But obviously, before you do anything in this market, you really need to take professional advice and make sure that, this is suitable for you. Because we're not here to give financial advice, but we're here to just point out a few ideas and things that you might want to consider as a way to diversify your portfolio.
Amazing.
We're not saying go out and buy Bitcoin. There's like 13,000 other cryptos out there that, might just tickle your fancy. It really comes down to what you might like a name and go, I like the dog, right? And you buy the dog coin, like Elon Musk is on Saturday Night Live, and you go, I'll go $5 with that. Why not, right? It comes down to just like equities. You gotta buy something that you're familiar with. Maybe it has a better reputation. Maybe your actual financial advisor told you what he's in or she's in.
But Beth, I was intrigued because we did some research. As you know, Digital Bites every week, we write about how, where and why blockchain and digital assets are being used. And we wrote an article about digital nomads. You're a digital nomad. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I'm interested, because we've struck a chord there.
Yes, I am a digital nomad. And I loved that article, by the way, and gave it to my significant other, and he read it and he loved it too, because he just graduated from college, and he's out looking for employment now And he doesn't have to only look in the United States. He can look in every country in the whole world. And we are in West Lives Dish Radio Network is actually broadcast out of Canada, Vancouver, British Columbia.
Wow. So you're a Canadian
And,
digital badger.
Yes, we took off to the Great White North.
A.
And I don't wear a toque. I'm just me, just the badger, no toque. So we actually produce and we produce in Yakima, Washington, Winston, Oregon, and Puyallup, Washington. But our radio station is in Vancouver, British Columbia, and that's where it comes to us from on a service called Streamline. And I am also, my secret identity is we don't talk about my secret identity, but for what I do for a living, my straight job is also digital. I do not leave my home. I work out of a room in my home, and I don't ever leave for work. So I am an all-around digital nomad. Yes, I am.
Well, brilliant. Okay, because so when doing the research, we found there were over 35 million digital nomads. So people like you, they could work anywhere in the world, and 11 million of these 35 are based just in the States alone. And then when we did a bit more digging in, basically all they need is decent Wi-Fi access. That's kind of a given. But these people are earning, on average, allegedly $110,000 a year. And there's some research out there stating that potentially by 2035, there could be 1 billion of these people that work from different locations. Because this time last year, there were 21 digital visas. And now we have 44 different countries are saying, hey, come and work in Spain or Portugal or Singapore or Switzerland. And Spain is one of the recent examples. And they are saying you can come and work in Spain. And for 4 years, we'll cut the tax from 25% to only 15% tax. So you could run the radio station out of Spain, for example, and only pay 15% tax, which is, attracting these people. But if you multiply 1 billion people, and let's just assume they are earning 110,000 a year, and then let's just say that we charge them 10% tax, that's $10 trillion a year of income tax. And this is why governments are interested, because they want to slice that $10 trillion, Beth.
I have a question.
Well, and it makes sense.
So, Johnny,
Go on, Jane.
would that motivate countries to perhaps lower taxes, maybe even overall? So you're saying that I could work in Italy. I don't have to live in Italy. I have to pay taxes in Italy. And they want to lower the taxes to invite me to work in Italy. But since they're making money, would they potentially logically lower the taxes overall as an economy? I mean, if they were nice, right?
Well, to qualify to get your digital visa, you've got to live there. So you've got to actually move, in your case, as you're saying, to Italy, move back to your roots. You'd have to live in Italy. And the idea is that, because you're typically, the average age of these digital nomads, they're in their mid-30s, they're fit, they're healthy. They don't stay at home. They go out and, spend money and party and what have you. So this is bringing revenue to the country. So I'm not sure whether we're going to see a fight to the lowest tax overall in a country. But what this is doing is encouraging very fit, young, mobile, typically well-educated people to move to a country. And once you've been there 3-4 years, and especially if you've got a family, it might just be a bit of hassle to move from that country, take the kids out of schools, in which case you're going to stay in that country. And all the countries, no one's going to turn their backs on, people that are earning good money and contributing to society. What countries are worried about is that you're going to attract lots of immigrants that basically take from society. But if you've got people giving money to the governments, then most governments welcome that with open arms.
I got you. That makes sense.
So basically, we can go on vacation, and if we like where we vacation at, say I go on vacation to Spain and I fall in love with it there, we don't have to come home. We can stay there.
absolutely, you could apply for a digital visa, and then you could look, as the name suggests, digital visa. Typically, you're in the digital space, so there's lots of people, that are working with blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, writing smart contracts and issuing digital assets, and they're working remotely. They don't need to be in a central office. And if anything, companies like to employ digital nomads all over the world because, they can pose a question, as they're turning the office in the UK, and they can say to someone perhaps in India, look, we've got this problem. I'd like you to work an overnight my time, so I've got a solution when I come to the office next day. And we've seen that in the States. You use a lot of overseas jurisdictions like India and the Philippines and places like that. And so effectively you can keep your office open, effectively working 24 hours a day. You get a really fast turnaround because you can pass that information, that processing power across to another jurisdiction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fascinating that we're doing that. And then we're also seeing this in other areas. I know I brought up this article to my significant other, and he was when he read it, he was actually finishing his capstone or his final paper, his master's thesis, and he was writing about nanobot technology. And he was like, this matches right in with all of these people globally who are into nanobot technology, because they do exactly what you were saying. One group would work on the problem until a certain point in time, and then they're like, oh, we're going to bed, next group take over, and they're all around the world. And so it's like, do. So nobody ever stops working on the problems.
Yeah.
So we're
like
digital nomading right now.
Stream of data. Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely are. Because James, you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, and Johnny's on the other side of the pond.
Absolutely. So this is happening. We don't really realize it, but the reason why we wrote about it in Digital Bytes was because a lot of the people that are working on different projects certainly in the blockchain space and issuing digital assets, they are digital natives. They're online, and whether they're working from their home or whether they're working from Spain or Singapore or New York, it doesn't really matter. The work is still getting done. But Beth, if any of your readers want to have access to the full article, which talks about not just digital nomads, but we also go in and talk about that thorny subject of sort of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, which I'm sure is going to bring up a whole lot of questions for another show. But they just go on to digitalbytes.substack.com and they can get a copy of the article there. And there's lots of other additional reading and hyperlinks talking about digital nomads and examples of different countries and tax rates and stuff like that. They're welcome to have a look at that.
And they will, and I've been driving them towards that. I'm like, here you go, and then give me the questions back.
Yeah.
And they, I think it's getting more and more popular, definitely, as we do these shows and educate my listeners. It will become more and more popular.
Well, look, Badger, I know you've got to get back down your burrow. I've got to go, because actually we're recording this on the 19th of September, and the Queen is, it's been her funeral here in the UK. So I've got to get back.
I know, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I know, she was an amazing woman. And I was so impressed that, as James said, I was in the States about 10 days ago, and the whole of the States have had their flags at half-mast.
Well, that would be correct.
Days, which is incredible respect, and thank you to all the American listeners for respecting our Queen, or as Macron said, she wasn't just your Queen, she was the Queen. And even the French are going to name an airport after Queen Elizabeth II. So, the nation that we love to hate.
Bon, bon, bon.
Great. So, Badger, we'll be back on the airways soon. James, always great to have you around, mate. And we'll be looking forward to your questions from your listeners, Badger. And James, I know you've got a load of questions from your listeners, so we'll be sorting those out over the next few days as well.
Oh, you know what? That sounds wonderful. And thank you so much for stopping by Music You Can See Radio. Maybe next time when you guys come to hang out, we can do a different station like Groovy Goddesses.
Ooh, it's like the sound of that.
Where'd you go, James?
I was just, you
You're
woke me up with
awfully
Groovy
quiet.
Goddesses. I was like, oh, how you doing?
He's just rolling in. How you doing?
How you doing?
Okay, guys. Well,
You take
this
care.
has been wonderful, and thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to the next. Jonny, when's the next article coming out for them to look for? A new article.
Next one is next Wednesday. This week we've got a week off in respect to the Queen, so we coming up the
Perfect.
21st of September.
Thank you so much for joining me, guys, over here on Music You Can See.
But please keep your questions coming in, because it's always good to get feedback from your listeners, Beth, and James. I know, on your listeners, because you pay them money for listening to all of this, don't you?
Well, now let's be
We
fair.
both do.
Right. If you're listening to Music You Can See in the Cyber FM mobile app, then you're getting paid as well. But yeah, you know what we do at Cyber FM, you download the mobile app and you log in, you create. If you don't know anything about crypto and you don't know what a wallet is just yet, you just log in with your email address. We build the wallet for you. And then after you have that wallet ready, you see it right there. Then you listen to, I listen to Asia Rocks. I'm not going to lie. But if you listen to Music You Can See,
Me too.
right? Or, of course, I listen to my show on Extreme Free For All. I'm going to plug myself. And then Team Blockchain is also on repeat. So every week when Jonny and I sit down and do our show, that goes out. You see the podcasts. You could catch shows as early as a year ago on the regular Team Blockchain radio. It's all in the Cyber FM app alongside Euphoric Trip, Music You Could See, Asia Rocks, West Loves East. And where are we next week?
Groovy Goddesses.
I'm going to have to check that one out
Ruby
early.
Goddesses. I'm looking
Yeah, and
forward to
so
being
when
on.
that is our station, that is all female artists or female artists with a male collaboration. So we do all ladies there, and we're getting ready to add a new Japanese group called Sister Paul. I'm editing their stuff right now, and they have been around in Japan since the late 80s, and they're pretty fabulous. If you've never seen them, you just check them out. Yeah, they're great.
Great. So we'll be with Groovy Goddesses in a couple of weeks' time and answering more of your questions. So don't forget to check us out with the Badger on the West Coast and James Tylee rolling in on the East Coast, and me, Jonny Fry, here in the UK.
Well, that is just amazing. I'm the Badger, and thank you, everybody.